Secrets are no fun. Unless, of course, they belong to one Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian Dumbledore. The third installment of the Fantastic Beasts franchise has arrived, and spoiler alert, it wasn't terrible. Yes, there is a little glimmer of hope that this film can turn around what some consider to be an abysmal franchise within the wizarding world. However, it just wouldn't be a Fantastic Beasts movie without a mess of plot holes. There were definitely some mistakes and storytelling issues that you may have missed in the Secrets of Dumbledore, so let's take a look at them right now. Yes, just like in the Crimes of Grindelwald, we have what I call a Minerva issue. Look, long story short, Minerva McGonagall supposedly was born in the year 1935, which just so happens to be 7 years after the Crimes of Grindelwald. So, her appearance there was absolutely head-scratching for all the hardcore Harry Potter fans. Now, with the Secrets of Dumbledore, she's back. Based on the timeline, Minerva could have been a child at this point in time, but not a fully grown woman capable of teaching classes to young witches and wizards. Plus, how can she possibly cover all of Albus's classes? Doesn't she have any of her own? I see one possible explanation to this plot hole, which is possibly the largest in the entire franchise. Maybe, before she gave it to Hermione in The Prisoner of Azkaban, Minerva McGonagall became pretty handy with a time turner. Perhaps 40 years into the future, Albus Dumbledore knew that he would need someone to cover his classes on the specific day, and asked Minerva to go back in time so that he could have a substitute teacher while he went to battle the darkest wizard of a generation. It kinda makes sense, right?
No.
Theory after theory out there has speculated that all along, Dumbledore was actually a villain in the Harry Potter series. The theories were not incredibly far-fetched. One of the reasons Albus Dumbledore became such an interesting character, especially after his death, was that perhaps his past was not entirely made of good-hearted deeds. Well, you can throw that all out the window, especially if you accept the latest Fantastic Beasts to enter the wizarding world. The Qilin is one of the rarest and purest magical creatures to exist. Supposedly, this creature has the power to look inside one's soul and determine how good or evil they are. The purest soul gets a little gesture from the Qilin. When the time came for the real Qilin to find the purest soul, it walked straight to Albus Dumbledore and bowed its head. So why doesn't this exactly track? Well, the main reason is that his brother Aberforth witnessed the whole thing. When we meet Aberforth in the Deathly Hallows Part 2, he's still extremely bitter and almost hateful towards his brother. Now, yes, he could be forever harboring feelings for the mishap with Ariana, but you'd think that Albus being cleared as pure of soul would have changed Aberforth's opinion on his brother at least a little bit. Queenie. What a powerful witch to have on your side. That is, of course, if she's telling you the truth. Now, we saw that Queenie served basically as Grindelwald's lie detector. He had her read minds of not only Credence, but anyone who came to join his side to ensure their intention was pure. Enter Yusuf Kama. When Yusuf went to Grindelwald's compound, supposedly to spy on him, Queenie was asked to read his mind. Aside from some negative thoughts about the death of Lita, Queenie cleared Yusuf as believing in Grindelwald's cause and was allowed to join their ranks. Something here just doesn't make sense. Option 1, Dumbledore knew that Yusuf would switch sides, and then switch sides again when it really counted. This would have to make him a legilimens or clairvoyant or something that I don't think that he is. The other option is Queenie is a big liar. However, she would have no reason to lie in this moment. It just seemed as though she was telling the truth as to what Kama actually believed, meaning that a lot of things had to go right for Dumbledore's plan to actually work. While The Secrets of Dumbledore certainly seems to have less plot holes than The Crimes of Grindelwald, there are definitely a few characters the film seemed to have just forgotten. One of these big players from the second installment was Nagini. The woman who would eventually turn into a snake and go on to house part of the soul of the greatest dark wizard of all time was nowhere to be found in this installment. Now this makes no sense, as she was Credence's closest friend last we left her. The two of them escaped to the circus and went on the run together. When Credence gave himself over to Grindelwald, Nagini was distraught. It just doesn't make sense that she would hightail it without anyone even mentioning where she went. Will she come back in future installments? Credence was going through some tough times serving Grindelwald and dying a little more each minute that it just doesn't seem to make any sense that the only person he really trusted wouldn't be part of Dumbledore's plan to help save him. Now, another character whose absence was noticed, but somewhat lazily explained away, was Tina Goldstein. Apparently, after her sister turned to the dark side and the rest of her friends went off to fight Grindelwald, Tina was promoted at the American Ministry to head of the Auror office. This apparently means that she was too busy. Too busy? She was too busy to come help fight the greatest dark wizard of all time up to this point? And she basically leads an American police force. Now, there was probably something behind the scenes that gave Catherine Waterston only an end cameo, but the film's explanation just does not seem to track as something that would keep Tina out of the fight. The Secrets of Dumbledore introduced us to another world-famous magical prison. Move over, Azkaban! The Erkstag is here! When Theseus was captured by the henchmen of Grindelwald, he was sent to the depths of this ancient mythical prison, defined by its murderous creature known as a manticore that would devour the prisoners once their lamp went out. The lamps in the Erkstag, powered by some sort of magical firefly, were what kept the manticore from attacking a wizard. These magical fireflies were maybe the most convenient plot device in the entire movie. Theseus hung there for at least several hours, if not a day or two, waiting for Newt to come rescue him. His lamp burned supposedly the whole time, considering he had not yet been devoured by the manticore. Then, Newt's magical firefly lasted just the right amount of time to free Theseus from his chamber and then burned out just in time to have an exciting chase to escape the Erkstag. Look, all I'm saying is a handy flashlight probably would have been better. In The Goblet of Fire, Barty Crouch Jr., disguised as Mad-Eye Moody, introduced young wizards and the audience watching to the idea of unforgivable curses. There's the killing curse. Pretty straightforward. Then there's the Imperious Curse, which allows the wielder full physical control over the victim they use it on. Imperio! And finally, there's the Cruciatus Curse, made to torture the person the witch or wizard chooses to use it on. Crucio! Voldemort used it on Harry in their meeting in the graveyard. Bellatrix Lestrange used it against the Longbottoms for information. Gellert Grindelwald used it against Muggle Jacob Kowalski to demonstrate his hatred for humankind. Only, this time, something peculiar happened. The curse was begun, but then after Grindelwald walked away, Supreme Mugwump candidate Santos, with a flick of her wand, ended Jacob's torture. That's a pretty huge revelation, no? Unforgivable curses can be stopped by other wizards? Now, obviously, the killing curse can't be stopped, but should the Ministry be checking every person to see if they're under the Imperious Curse? Could Neville's parents have each taken turns ending the torture on their spouse? It really brings up a lot of questions as to whether or not someone could have ended someone's suffering instead of just bystanding. For this next plot hole, we travel back to Erkstag Prison. This is really just a demonstration that Dumbledore had an unbelievable amount of inside knowledge into the future and how his plan was going to play out. Dumbledore clearly knew Theseus would wind up in the Erkstag since he had Newt give him that shiny tie before the plan even began. He would have had to know that the guard would take this tie and put it on. Dumbledore then had to know that the guard would fall asleep, giving Pickett a chance to free himself and the Niffler all in a short amount of time. Look, all I'm saying is I know Dumbledore's good and he's got style and all that, but the whole escape from Erkstag illustrates the idea that Dumbledore has to know the future for all of that to work out. Another great point to illustrate that Dumbledore must know the future is the whole briefcase situation. Once the team meets in the Room of Requirement before the final assault on Grindelwald, we're presented with identical briefcases, with only one of them containing the Qilin. This information was not revealed to anyone on the team save for Bunty and Dumbledore apparently, given that he knew that Jacob did not have the Qilin. With the majority of the team not really knowing where the Qilin was, the opposing forces were likely to be caught in wild goose chases. How did Dumbledore know someone wouldn't grab Bunty's case? Bunty seemed to know the whole time just where to be, so why not just tell the group that Bunty has the Qilin? As cool as it was, all it does is point to the idea that Dumbledore knows more than actually possible. Now, the Fantastic Beasts films seem to be digging deep into the global political system of the wizarding world. Throughout the Harry Potter films, we learned a lot of the inner workings of the British Ministry of Magic. In Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, we learned of the Macusa and the French Ministry in The Crimes of Grindelwald. Now, we learn of a new order of the International Confederation of Wizards led by the Supreme Mugwump, working in tandem with the Supreme Head Anton Vogel, who also serves as the German Minister of Magic. The wizarding world is clearly much more vast than we thought, which is great. Except one thing. Where the heck did they go when a few decades later a noseless evil wizard tried to kill a baby and failed, but then amassed the greatest army of dark wizards ever seen to fight in the bloodiest war the wizarding world had ever seen? You'd think that something like that would be worth their attention.
Careful, Harry, he doesn't have a nose!
So, did Hufflepuff actually get those 3 points Dumbledore gave to Newt? What if Hufflepuff wins by 3 points? It's a good thing they got rid of the House Cup, or else the wizarding world would likely have twice as many plot holes.